Have you ever met a man who made you feel seen, really seen, only to realize later that he was studying you, not loving you? He mirrored your words, your dreams, your pain, until you started to wonder if he was ever real at all. If that sounds familiar, you're not crazy. You were dealing with a man who wears masks, and in the world of psychology, masks are never harmless. Carl Jung called it the persona, the false self we show the world to be accepted, admired or adored. But when a man becomes his mask, he loses touch with his soul. And when you fall in love with that mask, you lose touch with your intuition. These are the men you should never date, not because they're all evil, but because they're unfinished. They're men who haven't met their shadow. And when a man hasn't faced his shadow, he will project it onto the woman closest to him. So, before we even list the red flags, I want you to pause and take a breath, because this isn't just about avoiding bad men. It's about protecting your emotional energy, your time, your sanity, your softness. It's about learning to recognize the difference between love and trauma disguised as passion. Let's be honest, dating today feels like walking through a psychological minefield. Everyone says they want something real, yet few people have done the inner work to handle something real. And the truth is, when a man hasn't healed, he doesn't date to connect. He dates to escape. That's where most heartbreak begins. Think about the last time you met someone who seemed perfect. He texted you constantly. He said all the right things. He made you feel like you were finally being chosen. But then slowly something shifted. The messages became shorter. The compliments turned into criticisms, and you found yourself trying to get back to the version of him that once made you feel safe. That version never existed. You were loving his performance and the charming persona he built to impress, not to connect. And once the mask slipped, you met the truth, the insecurity, the fear of intimacy, the hidden resentment he carries toward women, love, or even himself. These patterns don't just appear out of nowhere. They come from the unconscious, from the parts of a man that remain unhealed and unseen. And unless you learn to spot them early, you'll mistake red flags for emotional depth, Jung said. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. How many times have you looked back and said, I should have known? That wasn't fate. That was intuition, a quiet voice drowned out by chemistry. Because chemistry can be intoxicating, especially when you've been lonely, especially when you've been craving connection. A man who knows how to mirror your emotions can make you feel like you've found your soulmate. But that's not connection, that's imitation. He studies you like a puzzle, not a person. He figures out what you need to hear and he gives it to you until he doesn't. Until you start to ask for consistency, until you start to want truth. That's when he starts to disappear, blame or manipulate, and by then you're hooked. Let's talk about why that happens. In the language of Jungian psychology, attraction is often the meeting of two shadows, your unconscious wounds calling out to his. You're drawn to him because he represents something unresolved in you. Maybe it's the father you couldn't please, the partner who withdrew, the validation you never received, and he's drawn to you for the same reason, because your love offers temporary relief from his own emptiness. But when two people connect from unhealed places, love becomes a battleground for the unconscious. That's why the same story keeps repeating with different faces. You think you're choosing new men, but in reality the same archetype keeps reappearing, just wearing a new mask. The narcissist, the victim, the savior, the avoidant, the dreamer, the controller. Different names, same shadow. These are the types of men Jung would say are possessed by their complexes, meaning their emotions control them. Their trauma drives them. Their ego defends them. And until they become aware, they don't build relationships. They build reflections. They use women as mirrors to feel whole. And when those mirrors stop reflecting what they want to see, they shatter them. That's why you can't fix these men. You can love them deeply, but they'll still cheat, lie, ghost, or manipulate. Not because they don't feel something for you, but because they don't feel themselves. And if a man doesn't know who he is, he'll destroy anything that threatens to show him the truth. So what does that mean for you? It means your safety comes from awareness, not attachment. It means your peace is worth more than his potential. It means that every time you ignore your intuition, that tiny tightening in your chest, that gut feeling that something's off, You silence your most powerful protection. You see, women after heartbreak often say, "I just want to understand why." But understanding him won't protect you. Understanding your pattern will. Why did you ignore the red flag? Why did you rationalize the disrespect? Why did you believe you could be the exception? Because deep down, part of you believed that love had to be earned, but love isn't a reward, and dating shouldn't feel like survival. Here's the truth most people won't tell you. The moment you raise your awareness, you stop being attracted to chaos. You start craving peace, not adrenaline. You stop falling for words. You watch for actions. You stop waiting for potential. You demand presence. That's the psychological shift Jung referred to as individuation. When you integrate your shadow instead of projecting it, you no longer date to complete yourself. You date because you're already whole. And that's when everything changes. Because now you can see clearly. You can sense energy, not just emotion. You can spot the men who talk about healing but haven't done the work. You can tell the difference between attention and intention. You can see the predator hiding behind the poet. And the moment you can see, you can choose not from fear, not from loneliness, but from truth. So before we dive into the 6 types of men you should never date, remember this. You're not learning these red flags to build walls. You're learning them to build boundaries. Boundaries don't keep love out. They keep confusion out. They protect your time, your energy, and your heart from those who haven't earned access to it, because not every man deserves your softness. Not every man deserves your understanding. And not every man deserves to walk with a woman who has already fought her way back from the ashes. You've earned your wisdom. Now it's time to use it. Before we continue, take a moment and type this in the comments. I choose peace over potential. Because from this moment on, that's your new standard. Now that you understand the psychology behind attraction and illusion, let's unmask the 6 men who carry the most dangerous emotional red flags. These are not random types. They are archetypes, patterns of behavior that repeat through human history, just wearing different faces. And if you recognize even one of them in someone you've dated, it's not a coincidence. It's a pattern asking to be broken. He's magnetic. He knows how to make you laugh, how to listen, how to make you feel like the most captivating woman in the room. But look deeper. He's not connecting. He's mirroring. The charmer studies you. He gives you back your own reflection, your humor, your values, your dreams, because he doesn't have a stable self beneath the surface. In Jungian terms, he's living entirely in his persona. His charm is his mask, and without it he feels invisible. He'll promise emotional depth but vanish when vulnerability enters the room. He doesn't love intimacy. He loves admiration, and when the applause stops, so does the relationship. Red flag, he talks like he's known you forever, but you realize you don't know him at all. You've fallen in love with a projection, not a person. You'll feel compassion for him immediately. He'll tell you about the ex who broke his heart, the family who misunderstood him, the job that never appreciated him. You'll want to heal him because you see the good in him, but here's the truth. He doesn't want healing. He wants rescue. The victim carries what Jung called an unconscious mother complex. He craves nurturing energy from women, but resents them once they provide it. He wants you to fix his pain, but when you try, he calls you controlling. He's trapped in emotional childhood. He confuses responsibility with blame and love with comfort. So when life challenges him, instead of growing, he collapses and makes you the problem. Red flag. Every time something goes wrong, it's someone else's fault. You'll find yourself apologizing for his failures while he plays the helpless hero. At first, this one feels different. He's stable, confident, protective. Everything you thought you wanted after heartbreak, but slowly, the stability becomes control. He wants to help you, guide you, protect you, until you realize those words mean dominate. The savior is often a man with a superiority complex hiding deep insecurity. He needs to feel needed. He builds his identity by rescuing women, but what he's really rescuing is his fragile ego. Jung described this as the inflation of the ego hero archetype. The man who plays savior because he's afraid of his own inner weakness. He doesn't want a partner. He wants a project. And once you no longer need saving, he'll look for someone else to fix. because his sense of power depends on your dependence. Red flag. He says, I just want to take care of you. But what he really means is, I want control. This man is intoxicating. He's poetic, passionate, artistic. He makes life feel like a movie. He talks about soulmates, destiny, purpose, the universe. But talk is all it ever is. The dreamer is trapped in what Jung called the puer aeternus, the eternal boy archetype. He's addicted to possibilities, allergic to reality. He'll make grand promises, trips, plans, a future together, but never follows through. He's not lying to you. He's lying to himself. He confuses fantasy with feeling, and every relationship becomes a new stage for his imagination. He loves the idea of love more than the work of love. And once the honeymoon fades, he'll drift away, always in search of the next cosmic connection. Red flag. He's always talking about what he'll do someday, but someday never arrives. At first, he seems powerful, decisive, strong, confident. But power without empathy is domination, not leadership. The controller lives in fear disguised as authority. He's terrified of vulnerability because he equates openness with weakness. So, he tries to control his environment, including you, what you wear, who you see, what you post, how you express yourself. It all becomes territory he wants to manage. Underneath it all lies the shadow Jung described as the tyrant archetype, a man who fears chaos because he's ruled by it inside. He doesn't want partnership. He wants order. And if you challenge that order, he'll withdraw love, twist your words, or guilt you until you conform. Red flag. You find yourself walking on eggshells, adjusting your truth just to keep the peace. He's confident, charming, successful. He draws you in with intensity, passion, and an aura of strength. But what you're actually seeing is grandiosity, the ego, inflated to hide emptiness. Jung would say this man is possessed by his shadow. He's rejected his own flaws so deeply that he must project them onto everyone else. That's why he criticizes, blames, and manipulates. It's easier to destroy others than to face himself. The narcissist doesn't seek love. He seeks worship. He thrives on emotional control, and when you stop feeding his ego, he will punish you with silence, withdrawal, or rage. At first, you'll feel like you've found someone powerful. But soon, you'll feel invisible. Because power is all he has. Love requires empathy, and he lost his somewhere long ago. Red flag. He's always the victim or the hero, never the problem. Different archetypes, same root. Every one of these men is disconnected from their anima, their inner feminine energy, the part that allows them to feel, connect, and empathize. Without it, they live entirely from the ego, chasing validation, avoiding accountability, and projecting their pain onto others. You can't reach them by loving harder. You can't save them by understanding more, because love can't enter where denial builds walls. And here's the dark irony. The more self-aware you are, the more these types will be drawn to you, because they crave your light. They sense the depth in you, the compassion, the softness, but they don't want to grow into it. They want to consume it. That's why your awareness is your protection. It's not cynicism, it's consciousness. Jung said, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But not every transformation is safe. Some burn, some destroy. Some teach you what never to allow again, you see. The truth about love after heartbreak isn't that you need to become harder. It's that you need to become wiser. Every one of these men, the charmer, the victim, the savior, the dreamer, the controller, and the narcissist, teaches you something your intuition already knew. But the lesson wasn't about them. It was always about you. Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. You weren't unlucky in love. You were unconscious. You were loving from the wound, not from wisdom. And now you see it. Once you recognize these patterns, the spell breaks. The red flags no longer look romantic. The inconsistency no longer feels exciting. The apology that never changes no longer feels like hope. Because now you know these men don't love women. They love reflection. And the moment you stop being their mirror, their power over you vanishes. That's when your healing begins. So how do you move forward? You build boundaries, not walls. You lead with intuition, not emotion. And you start asking not, does he like me? But, does my soul feel safe with him? Because the right man won't confuse peace for boredom. He won't disappear when you show your truth. He won't punish your independence. He'll celebrate it. That kind of love doesn't drain you. It expands you. When you begin dating from awareness, something extraordinary happens. Your standards rise, your energy changes, and suddenly the men who once confused, you can no longer reach. Hewitt, you outgrow manipulation. You outgrow chaos. You outgrow the version of yourself that mistook attention for love. And here's the most beautiful part. You don't need to chase a healthy man, because when you heal your own shadow, you'll naturally attract someone who's done the same. That's the quiet magic of self-awareness. It doesn't just protect you, it transforms the kind of love you allow into your life. So the next time you feel lonely, remember, your solitude is sacred. Every moment you spend understanding yourself is one less moment wasted trying to understand the wrong man.